welcome everyone. So we're looking forward to have something really interesting today, and I want to keep it more casual. I've already sent out a few feelers to our eminent panel saying what we're going to talk about, but I also have a few surprises for you all in store. So those we can go completely unprepared. So we're talking about today, the topic is innovation in infrastructure and building the future of Vizag. So it's a topic that's, really dear to me because I love this city. Vizag has been my home. I've been born and brought up over here. My dad has been born and brought up over here. So my love for this city is unparalleled, even though a lot may think differently about the way things go over here. I understand that, and I understand, this, but I think I'm really happy to be moderating this discussion because of the reason that I said just now. So when we talk about infrastructure in a city, we're talking about, essentially what we usually refer to as the physical facilities that are available that serve the city. You're talking about the sewage systems, you're talking about water, you're talking about your construction facilities, you're talking about school systems, communication networks, transportation systems, that kind of thing. So it's a very broad overall subject we're talking about. And one aspect of it is, of course, creating it. The other is maintaining it. So we want to talk about how we're doing as such and how we would like to be doing is rather when we talk about the future of Vizag. So that's where I'm heading with this. So I'll delve right into this. I see the timer over here. We've got ample amount of time so we can, enjoy this discussion. And so all of this is, all that we're talking about over here is directly relevant to, the quality of life that we lead here in Vizag, right, in our city. So for example, we're talking about any other city. This topic is relevant to all of us right now with the way things are going in India, which is great. So we have to talk about our city, so we'll keep it specific to here, right? My first question is briefly, what as per you is that one key factor in infrastructure development in Vizag that you would like to see? What is the one key factor in infrastructure development in Vizag? Yes, please.
Hello. Yeah, it's working. Good evening, everyone. Such a nice topic, and also very wide one. And as we go forward, it may get into controversies also.
That's what we are hoping for.
Yes, it should be. Then only it will be interesting, so people need not feel sleepy about it. Yeah. Infrastructure, everybody knows that, like water supply, roads, drainage, all those things are essential for a good quality of life. We know it's known to everyone. It has been there in the making. And a lot of money is being spent. For example, last year, the municipal corporation budget was around 4,500 crores. At least if assuming that 50% of that went into infrastructure, including many things that are associated with infrastructure. So that's a good amount of money. But where I would see innovation or a future where we should be investing is how we are going to spend that money judiciously. We're spending money on roads, flyovers are being built, and parks are being done, and beach road is being done again and again. So is it really yielding dividends in terms of quality of life? Is not being assessed in the regular course of life or course of administration. Commissioner doesn't have so much time or inclination because he is here only for 2 years, so he wouldn't bother to go into whether this money is being spent really for a particular goal or not. He's bothered mostly about how I will be remembered when I leave, by the amount of money I spent or the kind of projects I took up. So I would first like to invest out of the 2,500 crores, just a figure, at least 10 to 15 crores on a think tank, building up a think tank, which will be a continuous one. Today, projects are being taken up. After 2 years, the commissioner would change, another commissioner would come. then the continuation many times is missing. So we need some governing body or a guiding body which would ensure the projects that have been taken up are taken forward. That's one. The second one is it will also be collecting data and also compiling it and then going through the patterns in the data to come up with what exactly the outcome of that money is. So that we learn from that, not that every decision made is ideal or good one or best one. There may be always, in any case, we keep learning from the experiences, but at least that is being recorded by this think tank. And then it will guide the commissioner, whoever comes, even a transfer, even if he's transferred, the continuation of the thought process would remain. So I would say that is where we should invest initially to begin with.
So basically creating a vision that is a much long-term vision. That's what you're saying by creating the think tank.
No, think tank is purely kind of a groundwork team. So it gives you the data, it collects the data, it compiles the data, and also tells you what is happening with the money that is being spent. So the vision would come from the elected body and the commissioners, but at least whatever vision is envisaged, that is assessed in relation to the money that is being spent, because that's a good amount of money that is being spent. Do we know? I mean, at least we would come to know. Okay, we have come this far. We still have to go some more distance. So right now we don't have that assessment. So I would like to invest on that area.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, friends. Thank you for inviting. So I would like to thank IDAC for inviting me to this city back again. So just as you said that you are from this city, I'm technically not from this city, but I had a very long association with this city for the last 25 odd years. I also got married here. So in that sense, my heart is, half of it is definitely here. And I also got lucky to do many kinds of work in this city. So I feel for this city. So that's my connection in that sense. And I am also very happy that IDAC has chosen to bring such platforms to second-tier cities where I think we really need this kind of opportunities to expose the local builders, architects, students, and all to what else is happening in the country. So that's my little bit of gratitude to IDAC here. And as I'm also overwhelmed by the fact that some of my senior colleagues, old friends, I'm able to see them today. And also one is sitting right next to me. And as I had known him all these years, he comes on to the point bang on to start with. Whereas I would like to probably start this whole discussion at a slightly different level. And one of the points which he touched upon is this whole idea about envisioning what the city should be. To me, the first question comes that who would do the envisioning? Like he mentioned that it could be elected body. And I'm sure many of us here would agree that there's also a problem with the whole election process. How do you elect a person to be in that body? And that itself could be quite a challenge. So maybe it could be multiple bodies. So one, you could have purely the elected political system, whereas you could have intellectuals, architects, and others can be another body. And if there could be a synchronization between the two, nothing like that. But I think that also brings out to this very important question is that ultimately whose city it would be and who would take the call. Of course, there is one side which is all about the administration, which is all related to the money, budget, and then they conceive certain kinds of projects. And sometimes the modus operandi right now is that you hire consultants who advises this whole administrative system that what is good for your city. And sometimes flyovers get built, some roads get built. So we are talking about real hardware here, the real hardcore infrastructure. But in my opinion, there is also a strong need for certain kind of a social infrastructure that needs to be built. And when I mean social infrastructure means it could be almost everything that is actually related to so-called quality of life. And when we talk about this quality of life, then it also becomes quite comparative. Like I'll give you my example. So if I was to go to the hardcore, let's say, infrastructure, one of the reasons why I decided to leave this city was because for me the international connectivity was not so good. because my operations are all over. So that's hardcore. But at the same time, it's not just about the international airport and that your connectivity, but it is also your connection to the rest of the world, both at an intellectual level in terms of opportunities that you get, and also your exposure to the whole world, that else is happening, which are probably good examples so that I can bring it back to this town. So are we talking about in terms of bridges, highways, flyovers, and that kind of stuff where there is a certain amount of money involved, the tendering process, and everybody knows what happens, all that? Or is it about the real estate which really gets affected by certain kinds of development that a city goes through? But for me, the most important part is that city is all about memories. It's all about the stories that we believed in, which existed before we came. We create certain levels of stories. We leave it behind for the next generation. Because ultimately, you know the city by that particular factor. That is why you are still associated with it. And also, sometimes it feels that as architects, as designers, we are also in a domain. Architecture is that inexplicable art form which cannot be ignored. I mean, if you don't like a painting, you can remove it and put a painting that you like. You don't like a movie, you can stop going to the movie, it fails on the box office. But if you have created a building which generally, let's say, if you don't like, there is no way you can do anything about it. You can't remove it. So in that sense, the architects and the planners have much more sensitive role, and they have to have that understanding and that commitment that every building that I create, I'm actually going to add to the layer of the historicity of the place that I belong to or I'm contributing to. So am I aware that am I contributing meaningfully? Am I contributing sensibly? And obviously, we would all do it with our own level of understanding and our own level of, let's say, knowledge that you have, or our own level of exposure or the vision that you have. How do I plug this, my own personal vision as an architect, as an individual, as a citizen, as an aspiring citizen of this city, with the vision of the city or the group of people who are going to create that vision for the city? So I think somewhere it becomes pretty challenging even to understand what is infrastructure. I mean, in my opinion, physical infrastructure is very simple to deal with. It's the bigger one, so I think that's the starting point. I think as we go, we could talk about it more.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Inder?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, IDAC, for having me as part of this panel. What I would like to say is the one key factor that I think to drive an infrastructure today is smart infrastructure. Now, I can explain smart infrastructure in a way using smart technologies in infrastructure development and building, like Internet of Things, like sensors, for waste management systems, for power systems, power distribution and transmission systems, even also different kind of technologies in water distribution systems. We also need to integrate this with the government policies, the regulatory bodies. We should also have the local community in the city in Vizag as part of stakeholders. So the government, the companies, the infrastructure company, and the local bodies equally become stakeholders, and they are accountable for creating such an infrastructure. So in short, I would like to say an independent, self-sustaining ecosystem using smart technology is my key factor in driving infrastructure today.
Thank you. Good evening, guys. And I would like to thank IDAC for inviting me and making me part of this panel. So, as a builder's point of view, I actually IDAC has done like a great thing, so, getting everyone together, majorly like interior architects and designers and construction builders, everyone together. So it's actually a great platform, to be honest. And as far as the topic is concerned, majorly, as Sir said, majorly we need a vision. It's not like creating infrastructure, anyone can do that, and not like in Vizag or any other city. The whole point of it is that we need to have a proper vision and a proper think tank, because let's say every 5 years you have your local body elections and someone else comes and it might not incline with what the commissioner or the local bureaucrat thinks about. So it's basically, and every single time we just relay all our roads, like let's say Beach Road, you do that, and we have a very small, the roads generally we have like 40 feet wide roads, and we have like unnecessary sidewalks. Sidewalks are like almost 8 feet wide, and the road will be like around 12 feet. So there's no point, there's no vision towards that. Like every single time someone comes up with a random idea saying that, oh yeah, we'll build that. So end of the day, yeah, I understand that we need to have, Internet of Things and smart, things and everything that. But at the core of everything, we need to have a proper plan of how to envision the city, how to make it great in the next, let's say, 2 decades. So that is what is lacking, is what I feel. And as far as I think, we haven't even tapped 10% of Vizag potential, because majorly we have like 40 kilometers of beach road, and which like you go to any other country in the world and you'll have like 10 kilometers ka stretch, and they will like, oh yeah, this is such a big beautiful place, and so much infrastructure, so much tourism and all of that. Vizag having 40-kilometer stretch of beautiful beach road, and we haven't even utilized 10% of its potential. So I feel like what we require is a proper vision of a proper love for the city. It's not about what to do in the next, let's say, 5 years or this political time, but you need to have a proper like 20-year vision and a proper plan which is set, and make sure that it's not changed. Like every time someone new comes up, it shouldn't be changed. Yeah,
So holding on that thought itself, to you itself, I'd like to ask, like, what kind of a city do you think that Vizag should actually develop into? Should or could?
yeah. I mean, to be really honest, it should develop. It always could, because see, that's what, as I was saying. So it has a lot of tourism potential, and also, okay, let's say one more thing is that from a builder's point of view, let's say we have a problem like CRZ, like Coastal Regulatory Zone. Everyone like in Vizag, anyone knows. So people are building, let's say, any from Dubai or Saudi or anywhere, they're building on this beach, on the sea, and we're like, we shouldn't build like 500 meters from the sea, and we shouldn't go to that height or do this and do that. And every single time I apply for a permission or do that, so generally because we build like next to each other, so every time I do a permission or do that, I get a permission from GVMC saying that this latitudes and longitudes, I send it to CRZ, and they're like, no, you'll send it back. Again, I want to do this or do that. So I'm saying that the process of applying or process of building should be more eased. That is what, anyone can, the government doesn't have to do a lot of things. They don't have to create things. Just, allow the builders or allow the private bodies to do their work. Like, it's not like, make it streamlined. So that will actually help, because Vizag has so much potential, and we're not even tapping 10% of it. Yeah.
Mr. Srinivas, you had something to say to that? And also, I'd like your take on this question.
Yeah, so of course I don't want to make it between an architect and builder kind of a debate. But it's very interesting the way you're putting it across. I would like to find out that why do you think India has such a strict, let's say, CRZ rule? And as you mentioned that world over, they're building on the waterfront. And why are we not building? I think it's equally important for all of us to understand that sometimes these rules are reflection of our own behavior as well. So how many of us would really be responsible and build responsibly on the waterfront? Many of us don't do, majority of us. And because there is that kind of an observation that happens, government decides to put everybody behind a particular line, saying that, okay, at least this is one possible way of protecting, not necessarily the best way, but one possible way. So definitely, see, when we talk about this whole debate on infrastructure or development, it is not that somebody has to tell you what to do. It is also important that how we implement it ourselves. Are we being responsible enough to follow the rules? I have always said this, if we don't agree with a particular rule, let's fight for the change of the rule. But let's not violate the rule first to begin with. Because that creates a very indisciplined kind of an environment where people feel it's free for everybody to do whatever they want to do. So I think that's a very kind of a, and this is what I'm trying to also understand, that yes, we find Singapore quite beautiful. We find Dubai, so to say, very modern, very developed. They're building onto the thing. But have we understood what are the reasons why they had to do that? So I'm also looking at it, we also like to believe what we would like to think is good for us, which is, we believe that's good. But maybe the kind of environmental damages they have done by developing on the waterfront, it's one thing. To address a problem is the real issue, but to beautify a problem is not the solution to solve the problem. And generally it could be taken as that they have probably beautified the problem, without even realizing that some of these countries probably have done more damage to the ecosystem than what meets the eye. Now, the question here is that how do you address such issues? How do you create that framework to understand what is really good, what is really bad, and then you contribute to implementing that?
Yeah, this is the very reason I said we need to have a think tank, because most of the rules are being framed, maybe with good intention, but in my experience, having been exposed to all these rules and regulations right from 80 onwards, that's about last 40 years, the intention of the goal or objective of the rules has never been specified. Let's say CRZ is a controversial issue, so I don't want to go into that, but at least open spaces or setbacks or so many other regulations we have, height, FER, so many things. But most of the time, or all the time, it is never mentioned why you need to leave so much open space or why you need to follow this particular law. If you can convincingly inform the people, I don't think people are so bad that they would violate. I'll give you an extract from a book written by an author. He is a city planner. I think he studied in USA, other places, but he was appointed on behalf of United Nations when the French left Argentina. He was appointed as a city planner. So he had people there working there. The first day when he was there, when he had to go through the files, out of 40 files, 38 had to be rejected. Next day also same story, next day also same story. He was wondering what is happening. So he called the assistant and then he showed all the rules and regulations. So this is the reasons why we have to reject. But the reason is, it was a French colony, so the rules were made by the French before they left to their lifestyle, which is like independent houses, good, nice bungalows. It's a Muslim country, so they want everything to be cordoned off from outside. They want to have a courtyard inside, so they all have only plain walls right onto the boundary. So and also they were poor. So that is the kind of life they were leading. So what kind of rules would you frame? The French rules are the rules that come up from within. So the think tank, what I'm suggesting is not just from the government, not within the GVMC, even amongst us, we should build a think tank which would be giving them information about, be the ears and eyes of the government through this think tank. Then what happens is all these rules will come from within. Then obviously most of us will follow. It's not that we want to violate. So most of the violations take place because of that. If you have time, 1 more minute, I'll just give you one more example. 10 years back, Chief Secretary came here in the previous government. So he wanted an ideas from the professionals. So they called many people, architects, industry, many people. So his idea was how a local body can increase its revenue within the same framework. Not doing anything, not calling for additional investment. So, each department came up with some idea. He didn't like it. So somehow I was there. I got his idea. So then I put it across to him, said, every year, I have a data from municipal corporation. Luckily, I got it. 15 lakh square meters of construction is being done in our city. It is continuously increasing. I said, if the rules can be streamlined, lot of kind of ambiguities can be eliminated, another 30% of construction would have come up, and it would have added that much of construction activity to the city, so much of employment, so much of tax revenue. Immediately caught the idea. He instructed the commissioner and other people who were there to look into that. So, this is how a think tank can work and then guide the local body to. So why he's saying plans are being stuck? Because of the ambiguities in the many of the rules. So why not clarify them? It's a simple thing. Just clarify them. Once clarified, then whole set of plans can be approved so fast.
So is that something that you would do? Let me put it that way. Like, what is the one thing you would do if you were a part of this think tank?
Been engaging with the local body for quite some time, with the VMRDA also. And on my own, I have been working on my own. So one example I can give you where I have really come up with an idea which almost went to the vice chairman at that time, but somehow it didn't happen. how we can protect these stormwater drains that we have that run through our city. They're all spoiled. But the city that we have is a very small area. But like, when we become 50 lakhs or 1 crore someday in the future, we are going to have 500 kilometers of stormwater drains in the city. It's there. We already have them. So we gave some idea as to how we can protect them and also make them part of our city. So it becomes 500 kilometers of, by the design, 500 kilometers of safe, comfortable, 24 hours, 365 days walkways, which actually Smart City is working on. So finally they managed to make Beach Road a safe and comfortable walkable street only for 2 or 3 hours in the morning. Whereas with this idea, we can provide 500 kilometers of it all through the day, throughout the year. So, I mean, there are many, many more things that we can do. So as part of the think tank, I would work on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, Mr. Srinivas, you were talking about this already, that how much of control can private consultants and companies have on the innovation and shaping of the infrastructure in Vizag?
I would say quite a lot if you are interested to contribute. The problem is also that sometimes we want to remain in our comfort zone. We want to be in our cocoon that, okay, this is my project, here is my agreement, and my job is only to do this much. So you have to definitely, if you are talking about certain issues, if you feel that you are concerned, you are not unhappy, or you are happy or unhappy with certain rules and regulations, so are you willing to walk that extra walk, do your own study, go back like he suggested, that can you go to the administration and contribute your ideas? Whether they accept or not accept is a different story. But you should be able to go and say that I am willing to contribute to the system in a particular way. Because the system also consists us, it's not just them. We are very good at saying it is them all the time. So that's one thing. Second thing is also where we should all be contributing in a big way is to also not just envision what we feel is good for the city and all that, but also envision that what kind of problems it might create in future. And that's part of
Problems
the package.
of? What kind of problems?
So so you know that between Andhra and Telangana, we have this so-called free FSI building system. Now, everybody is very happy as of today when you compare it with, let's say, so I'm talking about Hyderabad in a particular sense, that when you compare itself with Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, and Delhi in the last 4 years post-COVID scenario, the kind of natural calamities that you had, flooding and this and that, Hyderabad has emerged as a very popular destination for investment. And as a result, a lot of building activity has been happening. And as late as 2 months ago, Bangalore, if you know the recent problem that they had, now everybody is talking that Hyderabad is heading the Bangalore way. Now what happens to this whole visioning of Hyderabad as a global city, as an IT destination, or whatever, whether it's for the sake of investment, or so Hyderabad is also technically blessed with a better set of infrastructure because you have seen it really 30, 40 years ahead of its time. You have elevated expressways and ring roads and this, that. It's a different issue that they are all real estate issues. They promote a certain level of investment and, land, I wouldn't say grabbing, but land value enhancement, so to say. But the problem is that we are already heading. Hyderabad has already lost about 200 lakes in the whole process. Why is it that we are not able to protect the lake beds? So somewhere there is a demand in the market for housing. There are people who are willing to take that risk and build. There are people who are giving permission to build in that build. It's not that a builder is just building without even looking at the thing. And then there are people who are buying it. So is it like what Mr. Narasimha is saying, that there is a problem with the law, or is there a problem with all of us collectively not being able to envisage the problem that we are getting into? So that's the crux of the matter. So somebody has to, it's not somebody, I would say all of us have to walk our bit of that extra mile and contribute to the system. Yeah. And I have always believed that it is we who will make a good nation or a bad nation. There's nobody else who is going to come and clean up your house.
Right. Absolutely agree with you about that. Inder, can we take up from there itself? And also,
yes,
my next question was about how the government can actually be helpful in this.
So
we've
first
already touched upon that a little bit, but we'd like to be a little brief because I have something interesting coming.
I'll answer your first question first. The control of private companies and consultants as of today is uh, actually only to the extent of the contractual agreements they have in those particular projects with the government. So what they can do is make them stakeholders by doing PPPs, like public-private partnerships, in which they are equally accountable for those particular projects. So once they are accountable, they also have the freedom for getting new innovations. Again, the regulatory framework should also be changed if it is positive for that particular infrastructure development. So if you make them equal partners, then again the control depends on what kind of partnership is there. Now coming back to your second question, what is the
Role of the government that could be helpful to you.
Okay, so I am from the
So,
construction.
Inder, just to interrupt you there, sorry, is basically I'm also talking about this as a designer, from an aesthetic point of view, right? Like how much private consultants can do. And also, of course, the consultant, say the architect just an example, the consultant is held back by the budget of the builder when he's making a building, right? So when that is one way of, when you're talking about having people actually deliver the vision, we're talking about people who are interested, absolutely, who want to create something interesting, who want to create something that will contribute to the landscape of the city, and also at the same time, the builder is also restricted by certain things which we were talking about yesterday as well, about certain things that the government can actually contribute towards. So, what is your take on that?
Be it funding, be it subsidies from the government, be it any kind of bonds from banks. So the construction industry as of today does not have that, Amit. So it'll also help upskill, skill development, bring in technological innovations, help in R&D. So we do not have that industry status right now for the construction industry, which is the need of the hour, as according to me.
Pavan, you have something
Yeah,
to
pretty
say?
much. I was also wanted to tap into that because providing a industry status will actually change the game, to be really honest. Because you go to any bank, anything, no one's going to give you a loan for buying a land or doing that. You either take a project loan or something like that, but majorly you don't get any loans or any other thing, and it helps in job creation majorly. And if it's like a organized sector, or construction is more about definitely not an organized sector as far as in India is concerned. So the job creation, the infrastructure, everything is going to change. It's a game changer. And government has to think that they don't have to generate income directly. They have taxes, they have GST and everything. Like government shouldn't expect in a way saying that, let's say for example, I've tried to take some tourism land on lease, and the upset price was around 12 lakhs 1 year, and the next time the government changes, it's around 25-30 lakhs year-wise lease. So what happens is that the government is trying to make money out of that, but eventually, once someone sets up a business there, they eventually going to get business. They eventually generate money through taxes or any other way. So government has to think in a ways, just that the indirect taxes is actually a way of getting things done.
Okay.
Can I just add?
Sure.
So basically in the industrial sector, there is something called as a one window clearance. So once we get industry status, that one window clearance saves a lot of time. Delays in approvals will, be eliminated totally, and it'll totally standardize the construction process. So there'll be one standard to be followed. Everybody follows that. There are a lot of fluctuations in pricing of construction material. Everything will get standardized once the industrial status is given to the construction industry.
Thank you. I think we shall save some more of that discussion for afterwards when we're having some drinks, so we can continue that, because I have one, so I sent all these questions to everybody so they could ponder over it yesterday, but then I sent you a set of questions which I have a set of questions which I didn't send you. Before that, would you like to say
I
something?
just wanted to add a very quick point. There's another area which we are definitely getting into a troubled times is the way global warming is happening. The way sustainable development has become a very fashionable statement to make but not really contribute towards it. And I think it's real, it's happening for real. We are seeing the kind of temperature rise, that we are seeing the unseasonal rains that are happening, and it is also happening because of the huge heat island effects that we are creating by concentrating development in metros or in particular pockets. So we have to also look at it in that context, that what are the alternative methods of development that are available without causing any kind of loss or damage to all sectors involved, whether it is builder, consultants, authorities. Definitely everybody has to make some money to be able to survive and be happy about it. but not at the cost of making this planet unlivable. So are we really looking into that aspect as well when we talk about cities development and infrastructure? That's one thing. And second thing is, I'm now speaking as an architect. I think a lot is expected out of an architect. He has to be a great designer. He has to be really the man who knows the whole world and environment, and he has to be the one who has to influence everybody to do the right thing. I don't understand why.
And do it on a budget.
Exactly. I mean, budget is secondary, but I have to be a Masiha before even I start designing my building. So that's another big challenge. I mean, sometimes I wonder that why are we not able to interpret a brief given to you in a slightly more concerned citizen way, though you're an architect. I'll give you a simple example. The whole idea about designing buildings in concrete has become like the very normal even in your thinking. I'm not talking about these big buildings, multi-storied buildings or bridges or dam, which definitely require RCC. But if I have to design a small house for, let's say, economically weaker section, or if I am designing a security room for a gated community which is not more than 10 by 10, I still have 4 columns and a beam and a slab. Whereas it can be done with a load-bearing structure. Load-bearing structures can take up to 4-5 meters span. But indirectly, somewhere at a subconscious level, we are contributing to this problem. Sometimes I was involved with one project in this city. I don't want to say it right now because I don't want to talk about it. But in the sense that the brief was to create 3-4 buildings. Whereas we interpreted that why not we convert an existing building to accommodate the new use. That way we are saving the nation, the city, exchequer money. This is all our tax-paid money. And also I'm not using that much concrete to begin with. So I mean, somewhere all of us individually, whether we are builder, architect, citizen, buyers, or contractors, or suppliers of material, I think we need to understand that the planet is really changing for worse right now. And it is our individual responsibility that we should all contribute very meaningfully for that. And with that, I would like to just add that please look into sustainable ways of either building. Yes, it's not like against or for concrete lobby, but there are avenues by which you can adopt your design methodology to see that there are sustainable options are available of building. Adopting certain kinds of fabric, adopting certain, natural daylighting. I don't know why we are not even talking about it. But now there are great technologies which are available, which kind of brings in a light from somewhere and focuses on inner part of a room. I'm sure all of you know what we are talking about. But why can't we design buildings which can receive natural light and thus reduce the artificial lighting requirement inside? And can the building rules support that? And how much freedom, as Mr. Narasimha was saying, that imagine a situation, this is my hypothetical revolutionary thought, that what if we scrap the whole building bylaws? You mean to say people are going to start building dark rooms all just because they want to benefit maximum in terms of revenue and build as much as possible? No. We are all smart enough to make sure that if there are no rules exist, we would probably build in a way that I get natural light into my house. So with that, I would like to thank you for...
Thank you so much. So we have about 2 minutes left. So I'm going to do a quick rapid fire with everybody. I'd like 1 sentence of 1 word answers also is good. I'll start with you, Mr. Narasimha. If you could, it's going to keep it lighthearted. So, everybody can, I think everybody's paying attention. So that's great. Otherwise, I thought we'd have to wake them up, which is great. If you could magically improve one aspect of Vizag's infrastructure overnight, like snap of a finger and it'll change, what would it be?
Think tank.
Okay, your think tank. Yes. Sir.
I would say
and I would like to be part of that, and I would be part of it.
I would like to probably focus on educational infrastructure, recreational infrastructures, like you need to have cultural centers, museums, schools, where people would also, nowadays I feel that we have got too much into the rat race. Everything is more about how much money you make, what is your package. So there has to be some relief factor to it. And that comes from entertainment, music, dance, literature, schools, cultural festivals. So I think the cities have to have that kind of an identity, which would be unique to your city. There has to be a festival of your own, there has to be a museum of your own, there has to be a cultural center of your own, which curates and tells people that this is also the way to be happy in life.
So from all of that, one aspect that you could change overnight?
Why not all of it? I mean,
Okay,
it's-
Inder.
I mean, why just one? Everything should be done and it is possible to do it.
Yeah.
You just need to contribute towards making of it.
Okay, so I see Vizag as this really beautiful city with the sea in the front and the seven hills behind. One aspect, I see it as like a IT-enabled, tourism-based Singapore of the future. So the only one aspect which I know I would like to change about Visakhapatnam is the coastline, the draft. Because of the draft, we are unable to use majority of the coastline and the beaches. So like in Goa, here the waters are rough. If that one thing I can change, a whole lot of beach-based infrastructure like shacks, restaurants by the sea, swimming, water areas can come in. So that one aspect is the rough sea and the draft.
Interesting. Pavan, I have a different question for you. Or if you already have an answer for that, you can tell me. Okay. So there's one area where technology could be helpful to enhance the efficiency of our city. So like, for example, I would probably think of maybe pedestrian crossings. You have the, stop buttons so that people can actually use the pedestrian crossings in Vizag and walk across safely.
Yeah, maybe we should have like, let's say, signals 24/7 because a lot of accidents are, happening these days because of that. And also maybe we need to have proper local transportation as far as I thought because majorly I always support, about having new technologies coming into the city. But what I want is the core infrastructure to be fine, to be really good. Because at least I, envision that. Because imagine we having a Bogapur airport like 50 kilometers far away. And Vizag being beach on one side and hills on the other side. Imagine a guy from Gajuwaka going to Bogapuram. It's like a nightmare. Like it'll become a nightmare, which is a reality in a couple of years. So I would like the local transportation to be even better. Maybe have a metro, like a dedicated metro or dedicated line to that.
Okay.
So that will probably help.
Thank you. Sir, if you had the power to redesign one public space in Vizag, which one would it be? Without causing any controversies, we're trying to do this here.
I'll try to work on those 500 kilometers of stormwater drains. That would be a great asset to the city because, it's like wonderful. You get about equivalent to the amount of open space, permanent open space that Vizag will have is equivalent to 250 parks that we have at Central Park.
Right.
So that kind of open space would be there forever.
Fantastic.
That would be my...
Fantastic. Sir?
For me, would be a couple of them. One would be definitely looking into we are very good at saying heritage buildings, but not the ones which are like pre-independence, but also post-independence. Some of the architectural styles like Art Deco buildings and early modernist buildings, can they be looked in? What about the local bazaars, or let's say you have Gurpam Market, many of these.
I'm getting very non-committal answers over here.
Okay, so if you want, I would definitely like to see, which is what we are working on right now in Hyderabad. I would like to see that happen here, that if we can identify all the green pockets of the city, and if it is possible to connect all these green pockets by another green channel and make sure that they are walkable, joggable and
Fantastic.
all that. So that's one idea I'll definitely like to work on this
Fantastic.
city.
So one last one, since we're already over time, I'm going to take 2 more minutes of overtime, is for everybody. What is the one feature we could add to Vizag's infrastructure that could make it more accessible and enjoyable to both tourists and residents?
Better international connectivity.
Okay, fantastic.
maybe the same thing, the stormwater drains.
Okay.
As per the government Sagarmala development plan, there is this port-based development. So the one thing which I would like to see is tourism-based infrastructure, which we are really badly lacking in. So that is one thing which we really think I need.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely tourism-based infrastructure because we only have, let's say, if you want to have a cruise port or cruise liner to coming up to Vizag, there's immense scope for that as well. So why not have small jetties? We actually had a plan, couple of 5 years back. We already had a plans having jetties all over the city. So that is actually an interesting thing to have.
The jetty floated away.
Okay, there's room for discussion on that, but I'll leave it for later. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to the panel for joining us, and thank you, IDAC, for giving us this opportunity.